everyone, this is Mike from Mike's Do It Yourself. Today I want to show you how to fix your microwave. Now this is going to be a Magnetron replacement and a diode replacement. So this is the diode and this is the Magnetron. Now the problem I'm getting is that the microwave is, you can hear the whirring noise of the Magnetron and it just doesn't heat. So the Magnetron is turning on, but it's not heating the food. So more than likely it's the Magnetron, so we'll go ahead and take it out. We'll test it and we'll replace the diode too while we're in there. Now when you're taking these down from the counter or above the range, what you'll want to do is open up the cabinet above, and there's 2 to 4 bolts. There's one here, one here, one here, one here. But a lot of times you'll just have one on one side and one on the other. And so you'll want to have somebody hold it from the bottom while you loosen up those 2 bolts, and then you take them out, and then make sure you unplug the microwave before you get started. And so once that's done and the bolts are removed, you're able to slowly move the microwave down, probably about halfway to 3/4, and then you're able to lift it up off of the back mounting plate. Now to get to the Magnetron, you'll want to take out the screws for the surrounding cover first. So we'll go ahead and take those off. And you're going to have varying amounts of screws on yours. And if you notice any of them that are different, just make a note of their location. That way you can put them back in the same spot. And if you need to, you can always take pictures of different setups. Say if your vent is before or after a certain piece of metal or trim. That way you can put it in the exact same spot that you took it out. Now there could be a few screws on the back also. So you'll just want to check to make sure that those are all removed. And then you may have a Torx T20 security screw at the bottom. And they're going to look like this, and that's what the Torx bit looks like. It just has a hole in it. And so a lot of times they'll put them at the very bottom, so here and over here. So you'll want to take those out with the security bit. And then after you get all those screws taken out, you're able to make sure you take your tray out before you move this. You want to lay it on its back. And there'll be a few more screws that you'll need to take out to get this surround off. So here's the bottom. Now this is a GE profile Advanium, but you know, yours may be similar, it may be not, but the majority of them are going to be similar. So you'll want to start by just taking these side screws off and then see if you're able to get this back plate or the top piece off, the surround off. Now these screws are typically smaller, so keep that in mind when you're putting it back together. You should be able to put this back on its bottom. I'm going to open up the door. If you took these top screws out, this piece should slide out a little bit to the left and it'll slide out. Now this is a good time too to clean out your vents. Any kind of debris that's up in top would be a good idea to clean all that out at this time. Okay, once you get that front panel or that vent cover removed, you should be able to pull back on the very back of the panel. And you just want to do that on both sides. If you're missing any screws, it won't come off. So you just want to keep an eye out for that. Just see if there's any other places that you might have missed or that may need to come off. And be careful, they're very sharp edges, so you just want to be careful when you're trying to pull this off. You need to feed the cord through there. Just go ahead and do that. Now, before you start touching any connections around your magnetron, your capacitor, your relays, any kind of electrical connection, you want to go ahead and release the stored energy in your capacitor. So you want to take an insulated handle, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to touch one terminal to the other terminal with the ends, and because it's an insulated handle, I shouldn't get shocked. So you'll just want to do that before you start taking apart anything or taking connections off. Because even though this is unplugged, you could have some stored energy in your capacitor. And I just heard a little bzzz, so I know that the capacitor is discharged now. Just do it again. So nothing there. And we are going to replace the diode. Like I said, it is a good idea to replace the diode when you replace your magnetron. So we can start by taking the diode out. And there's a screw at the bottom. And with the terminal, you'll want to just pull that, or if there's a little clip holding it on, make sure you push the little clip on, or make sure you push the clip in. But for this one, it looks like it's just slide on, so we won't have to push any kind of clip in to get it out. So we'll remove it. We'll remove the screw first. Just remember what side it goes on or off of. So in this case, it's at the bottom. So we'll have to make sure we get it onto the bottom for the new one. And that's the old one. Now you can test these. You just have to have an ohm meter that goes up high enough, and mine doesn't quite go up high enough to check resistance across this. Now while the diode is off, we should be able to check the microfarads of the capacitor. You just want to touch one terminal and make sure it's in the microfarads range. And this one's on a 200 scale. It's showing about 1.0. And you probably can't see it on the side, but it says 0.95 microfarads, plus or minus 3%. And we are right in that range. So we're good there. Now the next step will be to take the wiring off of the magnetron and then take the screws out. So just remember what terminals you took off and where they go. For the screws on this model, there's one here, and there's one in that hole and one in that hole. And then when you take your magnetron out, you want to check your thermal fuse also. So you can put it on your continuity checker setting and just make sure you have continuity. Continuity there. And there were a couple other thermal fuses that I went ahead and checked, and they all checked out good. Now as far as your magnetron, you want to check the terminals on your lowest setting for your ohms. And you're going to check resistance between the terminals. And you should get a 0.1 to a 0.3. And that way you know it's good. Okay, you should get a 0.1 to a 0.3. And we got a 0.5. So more than likely this magnetron is bad. And then we can also check to see if it's shorted to ground or to the case. So we can check one terminal and put the other lead on the case. And it looks like there's no short there. We can check the other terminal to the case, and there's no short there. So we can also check, make sure the magnets are all in one piece. Make sure there's no rattling. It does have a little bit of a burnt smell to it. That's one thing I've noticed about it. So we've got the new one hooked up. You can go ahead and put the thermal fuse back around it. Okay, once you get your screws back in your Magnetron, you can go ahead and reconnect it, and then make sure your thermal fuse gets reconnected, and then also make sure that your diode gets connected to the right terminal on your capacitor and that it's screwed into the case correctly. And then just make sure all your wiring is pushed back in, and then we can put the top back on, or the side back on. But before that we do that, we'll go ahead and plug it in and make sure it's heating the way it's supposed to be heating. Well, the microwave turns on. That's good news. Hopefully it works. Put some water in there in a glass dish. Go ahead and microwave. Oh, looks like we got to set the clock. Let's see, 5 o'clock. Microwave 15 seconds. Let's do 45 seconds. And then we'll start. Well, we've got some warm water. We'll go ahead and unplug it and put the cover back on. Now when you're putting the sides back on, you've got these catches that have to go into this edge right here. So make sure you slide them in from the top and then push them down, and that way they'll slide into these edges. Well, once you get all the screws put back in, you're ready to install it. And it's best to have 2 people to put it in over the counter or over the stove. So again, just make sure you line up your holes. You'll want to put it on the wall first and aim it down like this, and then bring it up, and then you'll go ahead and put the bolts through the top cabinet. And depending on how many you have, it could be 1, or it could be 2, it could be 4, it could be 3. Just make sure you get them all in there, in their spots, and that should be it. Well, I hope this has been helpful. This has been Mike from Mike's Do It Yourself. Good luck on your next home or automotive project. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And check out the merch at mikesdiy.net.